The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has today decided to award the 2019 Nobel Prize in Physics, with one half to James Peebles for theoretical discoveries in physical cosmology, and the other half jointly to Michel Mayor and Didier Queloz for the discovery of an exoplanet orbiting a solar-type star.
You know, sometimes I find myself watching certain things now, and it makes me wonder how anybody could listen to things like this and deny that this is what the whole paradigm of space and astronomy is all about. Speaking of evolution, of course. And so they just recently announced the winners of the Nobel Prize for Physics, along with the other Nobel Prizes. Half of it went to this guy Peebles. It was kind of more like a Lifetime Achievement Award type of thing. It wasn't for one specific discovery, but he had all sorts of discoveries, supposedly. One of them being ways of measuring and interpreting microwave background radiation, and then basically his work played a big part in the acceptance of this idea of dark matter and dark energy. And then the other half went to these two guys who's discovered the first exoplanet, quote unquote, in like the mid-90s. And there's so much just in this short video. I'll leave a link in the description below. I mean, it's the kind of thing you could even sit somebody down. If you've been having conversations with somebody discussing cosmology and creation and what the Bible says versus scientism, I mean, this is a perfect thing to show them. I mean, you've got three high priests of scientism sitting right here from the all on the board of the Swedish Royal Academy of Sciences, or whatever it's called. So I'm not going to play the whole thing. I don't know how exciting other people might think this is, but it's kind of fascinating to me. But I'm going to play this one clip because it's particularly interesting.
At that time, when light lost its grip on matter, galaxies started to form. But it's only 5% of the energy in our universe which is in the form of ordinary matter, like stars and planets and living beings. 26% is in the form of the mysterious dark matter. 69% is the dark energy that forces the galaxies to move away from each other ever faster. We are living towards the end of the era of the galaxies. Over the next several billion of years of expansion, our universe will turn into a darker and lonelier place. One can compare our universe to a cup of coffee. Most of it is, of course, coffee. This is the dark energy. Then a fair amount of cream. This is the dark matter. and then just a tiny little bit of sugar. This is the ordinary matter. This is what science has been all about for thousands of years.
Oh, thank you.
Up until now. This is the picture of our universe. Looking back almost 14 billion years in time, this is the cosmic microwave background radiation. Already, at the time of its discovery, in the mid-1960s, James Peebles realized the importance of cosmic radiation. Over the next 2 decades, he developed new theoretical tools and used them to uncover the dark components of our universe. Through his work and new ways to observe and measure our universe, cosmology evolved into a science of precision. Science of precision based on the mathematical foundation. Cosmology matured into physical cosmology.
So the universe is like a cup of coffee. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you listen to this, and it blows my mind when I turn and think about everyone who scoffs at the idea that you don't believe in science? How could you dare question the mountain of knowledge that humanity has amassed about the physical world and the cosmos and everything? And it's like, did you listen to what the man just said? Where they are openly telling the world, through one of the most prestigious scientific awards, that the amount of the physical world that we are able to observe and understand and measure and interpret through all of our equations, the physical world that the scientific materialists say is all there is and all we can really assume, and they scoff at the idea of a spiritual realm or a spiritual dimension to reality. But then science only can measure and observe the grains of sugar in the coffee. The rest is just, we have no idea. Dark matter and dark energy. This is one of the biggest philosophical cop-outs and self-contradictions in almost all of human history. And it's bizarre too, because so the universe is expanding, and even people who reject the Big Bang still have a hard time dealing with the fact that they still believe that the universe is expanding. And, and why would it be expanding if there was no Big Bang? But it's expanding, and in a few more billion years, the universe will be a dark and lonely place. And there will be no heat and no stars and no ability for any sort of life as we know it, as we can conceive of it. So it's this kind of thing where an underlying unspoken nihilism, which everyone pretends is not the case, or this stubborn optimism, this, why are you giving awards at all? Why are you bothering to celebrate people in this quest for understanding and knowledge and progress? To what end? The whole universe is going to burn out and be a cold, dark place. But the response always is something like, well, that'll be like way after we're gone, so you just embrace your own atheistic physical mortality, and when you're dead, and there's nothing beyond that, so who cares? Which is nihilism, absolutely. Or you have to think in some sort of species-level transcendence. According to what they say, you could colonize all the planets in the universe, and eventually it wouldn't matter. They're all going to go cold and dark. So maybe the answer is on this other side of the coffee, and all this dark matter and dark energy, this unknown dimension that we can't even attempt to fit into our theoretical calculations. And that's all any of this is in the first place. It's just philosophical assumptions combined with ridiculous amounts of theoretical math. He's a theoretical physicist, and I wanted to share this quote. It's priceless. So from the Princeton University webpage, where this James Peebles is a professor, They're just talking about him winning the Nobel Prize, and other faculty members are giving him accolades and things. And then they quote people saying, "When I started working in this subject, I can tell you the date, 1964, at the invitation of my mentor, Professor Robert Henry Dick. I was very uneasy about going into this subject because the experimental observational basis was so modest. I just kept going," people said during the Nobel News conference by phone. Which particular step did I take? I would be very hard-pressed to say. It's a life's work. And the experimental observational basis was so modest. Indeed. This is a perfect introduction to people about things like redshift and the ridiculous claims that they make about being able to identify exoplanets millions and millions and millions of miles away, because supposedly the planet wobbles, which creates a shift between the blue and the red light. Ever so slightly. It's absurd. This is absurd. This is not science. But it's bizarre to me how I think this weird dialectic keeps emerging. This weird combination of nihilism and transcendentalism or humanistic optimism. It's both at the same time. And you see it in entertainment and media and the movies, and you see it in every message, where in all kinds of ways people are simultaneously clinging to a striving for meaning and a rejection of meaning. A striving for purpose, but a rejection of the real purpose that we were created for. We want to create our own purpose. It doesn't even matter what that is as long as you get to create it yourself. That's what I think the appeal of the dark matter and the dark energy, because it's, more mysteries to solve. Is the answers to life and the meaning and how we evolved found somewhere in that the metaphysics of dark matter and dark energy? Who knows, maybe. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right? Mr. Clark, speaking of which, I got this book at the bookstore a few weeks ago, Interplanetary Flight by Arthur C. Clarke, and I had to grab it 'cause it's just kind of a cool little artifact from this weird period. This was published in 1950 by Temple Press, and it's a fascinating little book, right? So this is pre-NASA. This is before really Russia or the United States had any sort of official space program or anything like that. And Arthur C. Clarke, Mr. Science Fiction author guy, and this book it's like an intro technical manual. It's basically designed for supposedly like a high school graduate level person to familiarize themselves with all the rocket equations and types of propellant and, how much velocity would you need to achieve orbit or escape orbit or all these things. It's just a lot of math, right? 1950, he was familiar with von Braun, obviously a lot. He talks about him and his mentor, Herman Obarth. But it's crazy how much stuff is in here, like schematics for space stations and lots of, they've got here's a close-up picture of the moon with the craters. But then you get stuff like this. Building the lunar base, right? It's like this cartoon painting. Saturn, as seen from a distance of 230,000 miles. Mars. Anyways, it's just, that's the thing. It's like, obviously, some of the math is functional enough to launch rockets into the sky. But everything else, it's pure sci-fi. And, the more I think about that time period and, before any of us had all these alleged photos from the Mars rover or the moon landings or all these things where they show these distant planets where you can walk around and some are hot and some are cold and these alien-looking weird landscapes. People were obsessed with that idea for so many years when all there was just drawings and paintings and imagining it first. And it's so weird when you think about, most of them are very inhospitable and dark and, empty. And they're either like extremely hot or extremely cold or full of toxic gas or ice or radiation. Every form of a hellish environment you could think up. But they just want to go there so bad. It's almost like a bizarre metaphor, an irony to it. Why do you want to go put people on Mars or the moon where it'd be more inhospitable than going and trying to live in the middle of Death Valley, the Sahara Desert, or go live in the middle of Antarctica, not at the edge, but in the very middle. It'd still be easier than living on one of these alleged, exoplanets or whatever. You want to go pitch your tent in a hellish world and plant your flag and convince yourself, that it's some giant step of progress in a universe that's expanding and burning out and going to be a cold, dark place in the end anyway, so... And I guess that's the thing, is that Satan doesn't care either if you just embrace nihilism in the end or if you just embrace self-deluded, humanistic, Luciferian self-deification, whatever you call that. Because either way, you're not turning to God. And that's all that he really cares about. People are so hungry for meaning and for purpose that doesn't have to do with coming face to face with God that, why are these guys so obsessed with finding life? They always talk about they only expect to find like bacterial life or something like that. Not little green men. But in the back of, I think, everybody's mind, that's what they're all fantasizing about. Finding some advanced race of beings who could help us in our own evolution and help us avoid the miserable nihilistic conundrum that cosmic evolutionism threatens to serve. It's just so weird. It's weird that all this stuff was so normal to me at one time. I barely even thought about it. The cup of coffee. The thing is that the cup of coffee, it's not a terrible analogy if you want to just turn it around and say the coffee and the cream, this is what God knows about everything, and this little sprinkle of sugar is what we know. And it's enough. And it's comforting to know that God knows way more than we know. Because he made it all. He's going to remake it all. And there's no quest to try and unlock the secrets of God's mind. He's not a mystery to be solved or used. But he's like an amazing person that we can know. And that eternity is not going to eventually turn into a dark, lonely place, but quite the opposite. But it's not dependent on us achieving some sort of technological, transhumanist, transcendent state where we can somehow step into the realm of dark matter and dark energy. And it's not going to be because we turn to any advanced alien beings with their benevolent knowledge and guidance. No, it's only when we turn to God directly through Jesus. So that's my thoughts on the Nobel Prize thing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. God bless.